Hello. Torbjörn. Good to see you, Rochelle. Hey, Mac, you got up early. Paul, Frederick, Mike, Sultry. Guys, good to see you. I'm in a town called Wollongong. Wollongong's south of Sydney on the Australia's east coast. Oh, it's Doug. Oh, it's good to see you. Doug Swanborough was one of my old students in the old days, Wally and Gary days. And he's got his book. I dropped it round to his house just the other day, so I hope you're enjoying it, Doug. So the book's starting to get there. The Australian shipment has arrived, as you know, and I've been sending out piles and piles of them every day. And the New Zealand pile has arrived, the New Zealand order. I just had a message the day before yesterday, so Wednesday, from the distributor in New Zealand. So that's good news. And the really good news is as I came online to do the live stream, I had a message from my niece. My niece is a lawyer in California, and she and my sister are very kindly doing the distribution in America. And she sent me an excited message to say that the books have arrived there as well. So that's great news. So we have the books in USA. The books for Canada are on their way. The books for the UK are well and truly on their way. Probably they're somewhere in the Mediterranean, even as we talk. And the books for Sweden and Holland are also on their way, but unfortunately, because of COVID restrictions, they left Hong Kong late. So it may be a few more weeks yet before they arrive. So isn't that great news? The books arrived. This is my copy. I've temporarily covered with plastic so I can protect it until I actually find some proper book cover plastic, which I've always done with my books. I've got old books going back to the 70s. If you take the plastic off, they're almost new. I'm glad, Doug, glad you're enjoying it. Us, Damien, Paul, us, Tony, Palmieri, ciao, bello. Okay, so thanks, guys, for coming along today, because I'm actually sitting here in a nice Airbnb in the beach area of Wollongong, so I'm not going to be able to do any physical training. Oh, Chrissy Dunn, good on you. I'm glad your birthday present arrived. That's my nephew, Chrissy, and his birthday present, of course, from his mum, who's my sister, was, have a guess, a good book. Hope you enjoy it, Chrissy. Tell me what you think. I'm setting up a forum on the budokarate.com website so that readers can leave their comments. So today, this will probably be a fairly short one today, but that's okay. I just wanted to read a section from the book. So Doug Swanborough, I know you've had a look through the book. Anyone else who's had a look through the book, make sure that you leave a message. He's got his 87 copy as well. So if you, Sal, good to see you. Thanks for coming along, Al. If you've had a look at the book, make sure that you leave a message here and let me know if there's any particular area of the book that you'd like me to go through. I'm going to read a couple of areas I thought of were relevant today, and we'll go from there. New Zealand suicide. You're going to have to help me. I apologize. You disappeared. You didn't come for a while, and I forgot your name. My apology. I know your name isn't New Zealand or Suicide, but anyway, so pop your name in there, let me know. So I'm just going to read a couple of sections here. Speaking of New Zealand, that's a great photo. That's those photos were supplied to me by Hansi Doug Holloway. That's him there with Solsai. Hansi Doug Holloway was the first non-Japanese to train at the Hombu Dojo, and those were photos of him when he's a young man. In 1964, he is now a Hanshi in New Zealand and still continuing and training solidly and actively. So that's really wonderful. That's what I love about Kyokushin. or martial arts in general if they're done correctly. So the section I'm going to read a couple of sections actually. The first one is Shin Soseiki, and the second one is Budo as a spiritual path. I think that's a couple of areas I'd like to look at. So anyway, Shin Soseiki, which means a new Genesis. At the time of his passing in 1994, Masayama was focused on two projects: the establishment of a new international headquarters and what he described as Kyokushin's Shin Soseiki, or New Genesis, a renaissance of a new, more complete Kyokushin. The exact structure of the new Kyokushin, as Sosai envisioned, no one can be sure because he did not get the opportunity to lay the foundations and framework before he left us. Kyokushin's New Genesis idea was first introduced by Sosai after the Fifth World Tournament in 1991, then mentioned again at the International Branch Chief Camp at Ohito in 1992. There he described this rebirth as a natural progression of his Kyokushin vision. Sosai said that the 60s was a period of Kyokushin's birth, the 70s the period of expansion, the 80s the decade of consolidation, and the 90s would be Kyokushin's new genesis. Iorio-san, thank you. No doubt, though, that whatever rebirth he envisioned, it would have been in accord with the timeless teachings of Budo karate already at the heart of Kyokushin: the importance of regular training, the endless search for truth, hope, humility, consideration for others, and the courage to face life's day-to-day inevitable battles as a warrior. As students of Sosai, and anyone who trains Kyokushin is, first and foremost, a student of Sosai, we can best serve him by living those high ideals that he taught us and putting that loyalty at the center of our training. Over the years, Kyokushin has transformed from an art almost exclusively aimed at strong young tournament fighters to one which increasingly embraces both men and women, adults and children, young and old, training in a broad number of approaches. It's interesting because if you look at some of those great old black and white photos from 100 years ago in Okinawa, and generally speaking, there's always exceptions perhaps, but generally speaking, all the students were young men, young teenage men, men in their 20s, young men wanting to be strong and capable. And it's only as the years went past and those particular men who went on to become leaders in the martial arts world, it's only as those people started to grow that karate also started to expand to make itself more available to older people and to women as well as men. And now what you have is, particularly in Okinawa, where the karate has probably a longer tradition than anywhere else, now you have areas and schools that really have made a fantastic environment suitable for elderly people to train. So that's the beauty of it. Yeah, you're right, Mike. I think these are probably a little bit long-winded. Well, Skazza, good to see you. I think if you see a video is 2 minutes, well, you sit down and watch it. But when you see it's an hour and 10 minutes, you go, nah, I'll give that a miss. But that's possible too. Yep, next week I'll be down in Melbourne. So this week I'm in Wollongong, got training tonight, training tomorrow, black belt training Sunday. And then next week I'm in Melbourne for basically the same format. And of course I've got piles and piles of books. So I flew on my plane today I had 60 kilograms of luggage, actually 62 kilograms of luggage, and I reckon 55 kilograms were books. Yes, and I did get hit with excess luggage charges, but that's life. So we were talking about how Kyokushin's transformed from an art exclusively aimed at strong young fighters to one which increasingly embraces all demographics. Many senior members today in their 60s, 70s, and 80s began as teenagers in the formative years of Kyokushin. Turn that air conditioner off, it's cold. Many competitors from the First and Second World Tournament have passed on or continued training within the boundaries of their advanced years. In the late 80s, dojos everywhere had students ranging 14 to 40. Today, the range is 5 to 75 and beyond. As we pass into the third and fourth generation of Kyokushin students, a new genesis makes sense. Dojos worldwide already embrace the need to expand training to accommodate a wider range of students. Also, the martial arts have become omnipresent in communities worldwide, not just for self-defense skills, but also for the psychological and emotional qualities they impart. Martial arts training transforms lives. The sessions are just as... It's very nice of you, Mike, to say that, and I always really enjoy you coming along and joining us. I was Ken from Tampa, Florida. You may have heard that the books have arrived in California with the distributor. So all the US book orders will start to go out early next week. In 1908, Itosu Anko, teacher of Sosai's teacher, wrote what became known as the 10 Principles of Itosu. Therein, he said, determine if your karate will be primarily aimed at cultivating the body for health or cultivating skills for realistic practical application, then train accordingly. I just noticed the first error in the book. I knew there'd be one. There has to be. You'd be lucky to get away if there wasn't. Us, Daniel. Good to see you, man. I'll see you tomorrow. Daniel's coming to the seminar tomorrow. But I notice I've got a footnote, and I realize the footnote is missing from below. But I can tell you now, all the footnote said is the translation was my own translation. Even over 100 years ago, so that what he said was determine if your karate will be primarily aimed at cultivating the body for health or cultivating skills for realistic, practical application, then train accordingly. That's really, really important. You have to decide, are you training for health or are you training to become a fighting machine? And because the training for both of them is extremely different. Even over 100 years ago, karate training was not just for the hard fighters, but also for those who saw it as a way to stay fit and healthy. Both paths were accepted and honored equally, and it is important we do the same. That is perhaps the direction of the new Genesis should go. The direction the new Genesis should go, making Kyokushin available to a wider range of people, especially the older generation, who have been in Kyokushin for a lifetime, past their fight career, past the youthful drive to be fitter and stronger. Now the need is for the art to provide a balanced form of physical, mental, and spiritual training for health, longevity, and inner peace. Dojos need to provide a wide range of opportunities for the students. I'm laughing here because, as all authors know, once you've published a book, don't read it or you see the mistakes. Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for the encouragement, Mike. But you're right. I remember, I might have mentioned once before, I remember there was a little bit of discussion backwards and forwards in journals before the internet where someone said the same thing, that, it's almost, for some reason, it's next to impossible to publish something without little errors creeping in here and there. I think it's just a matter of when you read something over and over, your eyes see what it wants to see, not what it actually sees. And there was a company who said that they could do it, and they challenged a large publishing house that they could publish a book, and challenged if anyone found an error in it, they'd pay a certain amount of money. And the book was published, and there was a typographical error on the first line of the first page, and a total of 3 errors on the first page. So it didn't quite work. Oh well. The range of techniques that was taught by Sosai in the pre-tournament era included, by far, many more techniques that are not permitted in tournaments than are. Gyakute, grappling, Taoshiwaza, takedowns, and Newaza, groundwork, core skills that Sosai had studied in his youth and had taught in Kyokushin's early days, have been largely neglected through the era of focus on Kyokushin full contact tournaments. The renaissance of Kyokushin's Shin Soseki provides the platform for that to change again. Masayama's Shin Soseki serves many Kyokushin approaches, a form of realistic self-defense, a strong system providing a base for both amateur and professional fight careers, a spiritual path for inner transformation for body, mind, and soul, or a deeply technical artistic system of exercise that keeps the body healthy, supple, and youthful as we advance in years. All of these paths serve as varying aspects of the multifaceted Kyokushin way. What did Masayama originally envision for Kyokushin? Did the more complete art that is hinted at throughout his books become sidetracked with the energy, popularity, and power of the tournament fighting? Returning to the original vision may allow Kyokushin to be more accessible to everyone, and that is perhaps what Masayama saw as his new genesis, the rebirth of Kyokushin karate. A style is only as strong as the students who represent it, and with the passing of Masayama, each generation must take responsibility to ensure that his legacy is never watered down or lost altogether. Loyalty is the highest law. Sosai was recognized as the strongest karateka alive in his prime, and he brought Kyokushin to us all. Even after his passing, his wisdom, leadership, and foresight, if we remained open to those gifts, continue to teach us as long as we remain loyal and receptive to him in our hearts, our minds, and our consistent daily training. As years pass, even masters of the art lose the body's youthful strengths. But the master who has dedicated a lifetime to honest training makes up for any such loss with perfect timing and an intuitive perception of the opponent's own intent. The master's movements become so unconscious, so perfectly timed, that he seems to be in slow motion. That level of mastery, that mushin, the mind of no mind, or absolute unconscious competence, is what we all aspire to reach. To find the true essence of the art, we must take personal ownership of our training and stay loyal to the spirit of Masayama through his teachings. In this way, his Kyokushin will live on from generation to generation through our attitude and behavior, and consequently through the attitude and behavior of our students. In Japan today, there are schools of fencing such as the Katori Shinto-ryu or the Nito-ryu, whose histories date back many centuries. It is not unreasonable to see the future of Masayama's Kyokushin karate following a similar course as its valuable contribution to society becomes increasingly valued. The responsibility of such a future lies squarely on the shoulders of us all. Train consistently, respect age and injury, and always hold lofty dreams in your heart. Be kind and thoughtful to others. Be fair to all, and live each day fully without regretting yesterday or fearing what tomorrow may bring. The quality of the years depends on the quality of the way we choose to live today, the next hour, the next minute. Look the challenge of life squarely in the face and attack with all the courage, strength, and purity your heart holds. This is the spirit of Kyokushin, the spirit of us. So there you go. And it's true that you have schools of sword dating back hundreds of years, and it's quite conceivable that Kyokushin can go on for many years too. Some styles of karate are already over 100 years old, but the word of warning, of course, is no style of karate has survived that long without the fracturing of differences of opinions and so on. So I fully expect that in 100 years, certain organizations and so on will prove themselves to be loyal to the, excuse me. Whew. If I had some water, I'd grab it. Certain groups, certain organizations will prove themselves to be quite loyal to the teachings of Masayama. It doesn't mean that you put blinkers on and never think about what you're doing. It's also, I said that there's only one way to do a technique, but if the way you do it works, that's the right way. In other words, everyone's different. You have to think. You've got to use your brain. And Kyokushin will survive based on loyalty to the principles of, and essentially the spiritual principles that Masayama taught more than anything else, I tend to think. There's one more little section. How are we going for time? There's one little section here that I'd like to continue reading. That's a great photo of Sosai. I took that photo in 1992 in Singapore. That's a nice photo. That's one of the new photos that hasn't been seen before that I put in the book. There's a few of them now. I hope you enjoyed them, but anyway. So this section is called Budo as a spiritual path. So in a world that has become increasingly secular, I think the yearning for a spiritual path has never been more important. COVID has taken many away from the dojo, and it's been noted that the older folk have missed their training too, not just the adrenaline-fueled sessions that the young trainers have missed. Yes, you're right. I think a lot of people have turned to the internet too. I mean, I'm doing these directly as a result of COVID and the help of the Patreon family. I've had quite a few new Patreon members join recently, including young Aiden. Remember Aiden from last week? What a great young man he was. You know, I took Aiden up on Monday. I took him up to Brisbane to train with my old live-in student who went on to become a professional boxer, Tyrone Tongia. He went and did a session with Tyrone, and I think he absolutely loved it. And Tyrone commented what a fine young man he was. So good on you, Aiden. I'm here in Aiden's town this weekend, and I'm looking forward to catching up. But indeed, even Aiden commented that as a young man, you can get used to this endless stream of adrenaline-fueled training, hard training, as Mac put it just then. But there's also, you've got to find that balance. Sometimes a session needs to focus on good technique in the mind. Torbjörn I had a long chat with Jan Bjorn in Tromsø the other day. We have started planning for a couple of camps, hopefully with you in July, November this year. Right now, complete lockdown. Oh, yeah, so crazy. So many people have had their training lives upside down. But like I said, thanks to COVID, would you believe we got these live streams going? And thanks to the Patreon family, it allows me to, allows me to keep doing it. So if you enjoy these sessions and you're a Patreon family member, please, by all means, get along. The link will be below. And if you've got any comments about the book or about Patreon, leave a comment below as well. And if you're not subscribed, do so. That'd be great. It all helps. I think every generation brings change. The traditional karate is found not only in the wild, but in search for the same understanding our forebears were searching for. Yes, and each generation actually brings with it a new, fresh perspective and a new, fresh angle to view it at. I think, too. So that's right as well. What the general understanding of what karate was and what it meant 100 years ago is quite different to our understanding of it today. So each generation does. It contributes to the change. Excuse me, I'm going to have to... Give me a sec. I'm going to try and find some water because my throat's killing me. Here we go, right here. Had it all along. That's mugi-cha. Michael know what mugi-cha is. Anyone who's trained in Japan will have enjoyed some mugi-cha along the way. So Budo as a spiritual path, and this is a quote from Yogananda: a little analysis of the motives and ends of men's actions in the world shows that though there are 1,001 proximate or immediate ends of men, the ultimate end, by which all others merely subserve, is the avoidance of pain and want and the attainment of permanent bliss. As Yogananda pointed out, the ultimate objective of all actions of all mankind is one: to remove pain and attain bliss. That bliss is our native state, the inner perfect peace spoken of in all the great teachings of mankind. What determines ultimate success in that seeking is the path we are drawn to and our determination to reach our goal. Shingitai, mind, technique, and body, is a concept which provides the threefold foundation of traditional Budo training. As Masoyama said, it also connects the martial arts to India and its traditions of spiritual seeking. In Budo, Shin, the mind, is primarily based on the spiritual teachings of India. Gi, technique, is primarily founded upon the martial arts, the martial traditions of China. Tai, the physical conditioning aspect, finds its roots in Japan. The enduring mission of us all is to find the answers to life's most persistent questions. What is the meaning and purpose of life? What and where is heaven and hell? Where have we come from? Where do we go from here? How can we move from saying, I believe it to be true, to I know from the conviction of my own direct experience that it is true? Most importantly, what changes can I make in my life today, tomorrow, every day that will bring the notion of perfect peace and joy to us all here and now? Then I quoted Fra Giovanni from the 15th century: no heaven can come to us unless our hearts find rest in it today. Take heaven. The gloom of the world is but a shadow behind it, yet within our reach is joy. Take joy. In other words, it's right there. Everything we seek is right there. It's right within. We've been trapped into this endless pursuit of pleasure outside of us. And society encourages that, because the more money you spend on toys, the more money goes around, and people like that idea, so they constantly encourage us to look out, and the senses are constantly energy running out. That's what the senses are. They're just like telephone lines that are constantly going out. But like Fra Giovanni says, our hearts find rest in today. Take heaven, take joy. It's right there. It's just a matter of us identifying it. We are all on a spiritual journey in one form or another. As the Vedas declare, know it now or know it in 1,000 lifetimes. That we have been given the profound gift of Kyokushin deserves both our eternal gratitude and lifelong loyalty. Look around you. The world is full of lost souls seeking at something else, yet unclear exactly what it is. As students of Kyokushin, all we need to do is live the life that Solsai taught, the Budo life that leads us inevitably within to the bliss of inner peace. That takes tremendous courage, the courage of a true warrior. As Walt Whitman wrote, the purpose of life, The theme of every poem ever written is one: become a warrior and fight life's battles courageously and perfectly. I quote from his poem, As I pondered in silence, returning upon my poems, considering, lingering long, a phantom arose before me with distrustful aspect, terrible in beauty, age, and power, the genius of poets of old lands, as to me directing like flame its eyes, with finger pointing to many immortal songs and menacing voice. What singest thou? It said. Knowest thou not there is but one theme for ever enduring bards, and that is the theme of war, the fortune of battles, and the making of perfect soldiers. How cool is that? That's one of my favorite poems. That's just the first verse. Don't you know that there is one theme for all the poets that ever lived, and that is the theme of war, the fortune of battles, and the making of warriors. That's fantastic. What is the value of a path that teaches us how to fight in a brutally efficient way if it is not tempered with spiritual deepening, humility, and consideration for others? Some spiritual paths disconnect adherents from the immediate reality in a most unrealistic and impractical way. The path of Kyokushin Budo karate ensures that not only do we have our eyes set high with the greatest of aspirations, but also our feet planted firmly on the dojo floor. Oyama's Uchideshi not only dedicated themselves to daily training, they were also taught how to behave, how to be of service to others. They would unquestioningly act as the hands and feet of their teacher, as the young lion's oath said, serving him in whatever capacity necessary. Dokkodo I'm guessing you're talking about Musashi's soul of the spirit of independence. This current time is mainly his soul. So following Musashi example, there you go. Doing Musashugyo on his own. Good times of self-discovery, yeah. Exactly. Please keep us informed about the camps in the UK. We'd like to support them. That's great. Shihan, did you get the email I sent confirming my payment for the book? It was charged my Wells Fargo Visa through PayPal. I'm pretty sure I did. I can't check right now, Ken, but if it came through, I'll be pretty sure that I got it. Torbjörn, Usmak, I will. I think I found you on Facebook. Oh, yeah, you guys are having a personal chat, which is 100% good. Okay, so I've got a quote here from Masayama. Karate is the most Zen-like of all martial arts. It has abandoned the sword. This means that it transcends the idea of winning and losing to become a way of thinking and living for the sake of other people in accordance with the way of heaven. Its meanings, therefore, reach the profoundest levels of human thought. I mean, this is Masayama saying this. This isn't some religious monk or Buddhist priest or Catholic nun or Hindu Swami. This is Masayama saying that, we have to live for the sake of people in accordance with the way of heaven. What's the way of heaven? Well, that's just a metaphor for what is right, living righteously. This is one of the often unrecognized profundities of Masayama's teachings. The way he designed Kyokushin training develops within the right-minded student not only courage, strength, and skill, but also a natural sense of selfless service to mankind. It was vital to him that the champions of Kyokushin were also champions in life. Whilst looking in, we can find great peace. Exactly. I think it was Thoreau. Thoreau said, that only which we have within can we see without. If we see no gods, it is because we harbor none. So your inner environment actually reflects your outer environment. Small behaviors become acts of service to others without even a hint of expectation of reward. The action itself is the reward. This is the spiritual interpretation of Mushin, no mind. If a warrior faces daily life with such selfless resolve, he has largely surrendered the ego, an important step on the highest spiritual paths. Yoga has much in common with karate. The highest form of yoga, Raj Yoga, is an exact, deeply spiritual science which, if followed in accordance with the prescription defined by Patanjali in his Yoga Sutras, brings measurable results replicable by anyone. That's what makes it scientific. What makes something scientific or not is it replicable? So I say to you, well, I boil the kettle at sea level, 100 degrees. I'll go off and I'll do it too. And if it's the same, if I can replicate it, well, that kind of proves it scientifically. Well, it's the same with things that often aren't considered scientific. But if you can follow a designated path, which involves a designated process, and you continue that for a suitable length of time, then you can also replicate the results. Yet yoga has been widely misinterpreted. So much of what is taught as yoga is little more than a vain form of flexibility practice.